thank you for everyone who joined on. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. Another stream of Let's Talk About It. We got an interesting topic tonight, folks. If you look at the subject, ladies, are you running from the truth that could change your outcomes? Now, all that depends on what you want your outcomes to be. It really all depends on what it is that your outcomes, what you want your outcomes to be. Everybody got different expectations. Everybody has different outcomes that they want. No one or two people have the same outcomes. But in terms of relationships, what outcomes do you want? Only you know that. So as I go through this talk with you tonight, you'll be able to play it back in your mind and come to terms as to what exactly it is that you want. I think it's very important that women in general and black women as a whole understand exactly what it is that they want, because we all want something. We just know that whatever we want, it requires something of us. And with that being said, you need to do some self-analysis. That self-analysis will allow you to see exactly whether what you want is within reasonable expectation or not. Sometimes we have goals, and our goals are unreasonable goals. And if you've ever heard anybody tell you anything about setting goals, I know I've often heard a lot of times with goals that if you don't write it down, it doesn't exist. And but the thing with the modern woman today, she tends to write down this thing we call a list. I would equate that equivalent to writing down goals as well. But are they realistic goals? Are they goals that you can actually achieve? And I think that's what needs to be reevaluated, so that you can kind of bring yourself and level set yourself, so that you'll know that if your expectations are beyond what you're able to deliver. And I think that's very important. That will eliminate a whole lot of disappointment. That'll eliminate a whole lot of discouragement, especially with our women. Women in general, but our women in particular, black women, have a tendency of creating a list that's so high, that's so above what they're able to achieve. And in addition to the list being higher than what they're able to achieve, they have a behavior that contradicts the list. So this is what we're going to get into tonight. And the topic again is, ladies, are you running from the truth that could change your outcomes? Are you running from that truth? Are you running from it because of who it came through? Or are you running from it simply because it came at all? I'm brought to it. My attention is brought to a post that I shared about a week ago, literally, and I shared it from a brother's page who was, I believe, he's from Africa. And what I noticed about the post, what I noticed even more now about the post, is that once I posted, the attention that it got was nowhere near the attention that it got on his page, because there were literally no one responded to the post. He had 1, 2, 3 people responded to the post, and each response was favorable and it was positive. What I've noticed about the post after I posted it on my page, now mind you, I didn't originate the post. Just for the record, I didn't originate the post. I just saw the post and I thought it was valuable, and it read like this. It said, men are not intimidated by your success. We simply want a feminine woman. And my God, you would not believe the avalanche of triggering that took place because of that one post. And right to this day, I promise you, I don't quite understand why it triggered so many people. I really don't get it. And the only conclusion I could come to is that it was triggered by more women than men, obviously. But what I came to the conclusion with the post and why it triggered so many women is because, unfortunately, Our women have a tendency of thinking with their emotions as opposed to their head. So we tend to interpret what we hear. They tend to interpret what they hear and take it out of context. The post never said that success, that a woman's success meant she was somehow masculine. But somehow, unfortunately, that's what was added into the narrative. That the post said she was masculine because she was successful. That's not what the post said. That's clearly not what it said. And again, as a disclaimer, I didn't originate the post. I just simply saw some value in the post and saw some truth in the post. And as a result, I reposted it. And I'm talking about a week ago. And just within days, with like less than 72 hours, the post has taken off and went viral almost, with the responses that were had because of the post. Now, ladies, I want to say something. It's interesting to me that when a man says, and in particular a black man says, something that he wants or that he prefers, that he's now demonized and he's now hit with a barrage of what we call sign language. Sign language simply means shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. I don't think that's fair, because like I said in previous streams before, black men have been attacked continuously. They've made movies making black men in particular, look weak in so many different movies. And there were never any protest on behalf of our women about how we were portrayed in movies or how we were portrayed in media. And you can oftentimes in your own private neighborhood, you can walk down the street and you can hear a black woman basically emasculating a man in public out loud. There is never any protest. I just find it very interesting that when a black man just says it in the nicest, most politically correct way possible, what he wants, that he's now demonized, he's put to shame with words, pejoratives, ad hominems, all kinds of things is laid at his lap for simply wanting something and requiring something from the woman that he chooses, that he would choose in the future to be his wife. I just find it very interesting that men are not allowed, so it seems, to say what they want, and black men in particular, what they want or what they desire as it relates to a mate, as it relates to a wife, and as it relates to a long-term companion that you'll end up living with into the end of your life. Now, I'm going to speak on some narratives that I personally believe lends credit to that whole thought process. Let's talk about it. If you have, let's go here. Today we have a marriage rate in the United States that's about 30%, and that number is dropping drastically. 30% as a whole. Okay? Of those that do get married, you're looking at about 85% of those marriages that are dissolved, where divorce is sought after by women. 85%. Men, again, like I've always said, are not leaving their relationships. They're not. Women are dissolving the relationships. And to make matters worse, even when they're engaged, 85% of all engagements are called off by women. What is that saying? This is something we have to really take a look at. Is it really the man's is the man really the problem? Or ladies, are you potentially a part of the problem? You've always heard me say continuously, and I won't stop. The family structure in the black community has been broken down to almost like dust. It's like dust. You can barely find two black people, male and female, that are willing to stay with one another. I know. We're young, we're dumb, we make decisions, okay, we don't understand, we don't really realize what we're doing, I get it, okay. The only problem with that, which you've heard me always say before too, the world does not owe any of us understanding, and we don't deserve anything. What we deserve is what we work for. And what I'm finding now by looking at, with careful analysis of our community and the conditions that affect us as it relates to family structure and families, period, we don't work hard enough. It's almost like we don't want it to work. So you have ladies with these lists, right? And they have a list, and I'm going to explain this to you. It's almost like a Frankenstein monster. I want a man who's 6 feet over here. I want the guy over here because he has a nice smile. I want the guy over here because he has big feet. I want the guy over here because he has a nice haircut. And I want the guy over here because I like the package, because I saw the imprint between his jeans. Okay? Now, if you get all these pieces together, if you should be so fortunate to get all these pieces together and find that perfect man that you said you want, as soon as you get him, the first thing that happens, if you're not ready, and if you're broken in any kind of way, because of previous relationships, you will be scared to death to find that particular man that meets the requirements that's on that list. Because that kind of man, quote unquote, a good man, is going to require something of you. And what he's going to require of you is accountability. Accountability in what way? He's going to have accountability requirements of you that's going to require you to be a wife. He's going to have requirements of you and accountability of you to be fit, feminine, friendly, nurturing, easy to be with, easy to be around. Okay? A man of that caliber, if he's good, and I'm not talking about a 6-figure income earner, I'm talking about any man that fits that description that you have on that list. And I'm persuaded that you've already met that person. You've met that person more than once in your lifetime. You probably have them in your friend zone. And you don't even realize they're there. They've liked you your whole entire life. They've been nothing but friendly to you. They've been nothing but respectful to you. They've been nothing but courteous to you. And because they didn't fit the description of what it is that you said you wanted, you bypassed them. That same person is still sitting in your friend list. Right? But this is what you choose to do. You choose to date Pookie. You choose to date Nug Nug. You choose to date Tim Tim. You choose to date everything that's toxic to you and what you said that you want. By the time they finish with you, the only thing you got out of that relationship was 2 things. And I'm going to explain to you very quickly what you got. You got emotional distress and sexual bliss. That's all you got. Emotional distress and sexual bliss. And sadly enough, as you take that same experience into a new relationship, this is what you do. You take the experience of all those bad relationships into a new one. And now the new person, who may be a good dude, who may be a good guy, you don't even recognize him. You don't recognize him. But he may be a good person. He may be a good guy. He may be a good fit for you if you had clear eyes to see. But because every time you look into a mirror, that mirror is broken and you're looking at the reflection of your broken pieces. That's why you can't see clearly enough to know when a man is in front of you who is good for you. And these are the end result. It's like a horror movie. The ghost of relationships past. So you walk into each relationship under fear. You're afraid of the outcome. So before you even get started, you start already putting together the puzzle of what could happen. Not that it did happen. You start projecting into the future for things that didn't even happen yet. And then you prepare yourself to a point that you end up sabotaging your own relationships. If that's not true, tell me why 85% of all marriages divorces that are filed are filed by women. If that's not true, tell me why most 85% of all engagements are called off by women. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, he did something, it was his fault. I know that's what you're going to say. I can hear you thinking already. I know that's what you're going to say. Because accountability, like I said in previous streams, is like acid reflux. It's like kryptonite. The accountability that women are willing to take upon themselves for any failure of anything that happened to them that they felt or deemed important is almost irrelevant. It always has to be the man's fault. Always has to be the man's fault. And ladies, that's called running from the truth of yourself, and you'll never get the outcomes that you said you want. You'll never get it like that. We have to do better. Don't get mad. Get better. Get better. Because most of our women are walking around right now, and they've been walking around for years, on broken pieces. Broken pieces. The lack of trust. The lack of security. They feel insecure. They believe that they have to basically deal with whatever comes, and that's because they don't have a clear idea or definition of exactly who they are as an individual, or exactly what it is that they actually want. A man does not want to fix, like a repairman, a broken woman. That's not his job. Think about it. If you want the outcomes that you say you want, ladies, do you want a man to come in and become a repairman to fix you? Is that fair to him? And think about this, is that a fair deal? Could he not have the option of choosing something different? Could he not have the option of choosing a woman who's not in that condition, is not broken? Who's secure in who they are? I'm not talking about secure in your job. Your job don't make you secure. Your income, ladies, don't make you secure. Your success as defined by income does not make you secure. How much money is in your bank account don't make you secure. Security is not based on finances. That's why you can't buy security. You can't buy emotional security. That's why you can never take material things and money and say that you're secure. Because you can't buy the security. You need to have the security. And that's based on a lot of things. That's based on your thought process, how you were raised, what you've been told, who you've been listening to. That's what determines your real security. And you know, it's funny, because in 1965, prior to 1965, the black community was married at a rate of 85%. And I'm talking about we were married at 85% under the worst conditions. I'm talking about Jim Crow, segregation in public transportation, segregation at lunch counters, segregation in public venues. We were absolutely under the worst conditions, and we had the lowest level of education. I'm talking grandpa had a 4th grade education and grandma had a 6th grade education, and they still seemed to come together and last, and they were built of better stuff than the women are today. Why did they last? You know what I heard a sister say to me? She said to me that the men back then were stronger back then. That's why. Okay, let's go with that argument. This is what I said to her. I said, well, the men today are more weaker and feminine, then who's raising them? It's not the men. Especially when 85% of all black households are headed by a female. She's raising them. And as a result, like I said in a previous post, the men in that house take on the feminine characteristics and behaviors of the mother that's in front of them. They can't help it. Don't get mad. Listen. They can't help it. That's what they see, that's what they hear, that's what they're indoctrinated with. This is a reality. This is a reality. Men teach men how to become men. That's why the father is so important. But even when he's not there, because he couldn't stay there, oftentimes in the black community, women keep the father away from their children. They use the children like a weapon, like a gun, like a knife. They weaponize the children against their father. And then the father is forbidden to come around as often as he would like to come, Therefore, she gets to speak and tailor the narrative about what happened where the children are concerned, about how it's going to go where the children are concerned. And this is the spiraling effect and destruction of the black community and of the black home. This is what it is. And I know we see it. We see it every single day we walk out our door. We know family members right now that have gone under those conditions. We see it every time we visit a family member. These conditions exist. They're real. Well, why did they exist? Why were they so successful prior to 1965? Under the worst conditions. Why did marriage work? Why did it work? I've even heard women say that, well, the women back then, they were suffering in silence. They were being at home, as if that man back then was coming home, beating her behind from the front step all the way up to the bedroom. That's a lie. That is a lie. The truth of the matter is, our foreparents were better and made of better stuff. They didn't just break up because they fell out of love. I mean, the simplest, silliest stuff. You'd be surprised what relationships break up for today. Oh, the sex wasn't good. A woman will walk away from a man because she said the sex wasn't good. Oh, we weren't intellectually compatible. What exactly does that mean? What exactly does not being intellectually compatible mean? As if she was reading off calculus and trigonometry and he was reading off addition and subtraction. I mean, what is intellectually incompatible really mean? I mean, any excuse will do. Any excuse will do. But at the end of the day, accountability, like I said, is like acid reflux. It really is. It's like acid reflux. It's like kryptonite. And it's easier to argue. It's easier to combat. It's easier to be hard to deal with. It's easier to be this toxic, unnurturing way. Because it gets the argument won. You win the argument, ladies, but you don't win the war. You win the battle, but you don't win the war. And I think at the end of the day, you want to win the war. You want to win the war. Because as we get older, and we all are going to get older, and that's a fact. We're all going to get older. Many of us never contemplate what getting older actually means. We really don't. Because while we're young and vibrant and able to get around and move, we really think we have time. When in reality, this is what we have. Time is running out. Time is running out. That's your clock. That's your clock. So at what point, ladies, do we decide to stop the clock? When do we decide to stop the clock? And actually get out of our emotions and start thinking. It's amazing to me, and I can't wrap my head around this either. Women say, well, you know what? I'm not going to settle. I'm not settling. I hear you. But you'll settle with dying alone as opposed to settling with going into the end of life with someone. Well, here's the other narrative, which hasn't done women any service whatsoever. It has not. It has not. Pardon me 1 second, family. I wanted to get something that I wanted to explain to you. Thank you so much for your patience right there. very serious topic that we're dealing with. Again, going back to what I said previously, it amazes me how our women are willing to sacrifice their life and their time because under the title that I'm not settling. Okay, I hear you, but you're willing to settle at being alone. You're willing to settle at the inevitable reality that you will be alone if, in fact, you can't get to a place where you can realize that your behaviors and attitudes and even perceived masculinity has caused you to run men away. Because truth be told, I'm going to say this to you, good men, the good men, I mean the men that you want, they're not going to deal with that. They're not. They're just simply not going to deal with that. They want a woman who, again, is fit, feminine, friendly, nurturing, pleasant to be around, non-argumentative, non-combative. That's what they want. That's what they want. That's what they want. And I'm sure if a lot of our women knew how to do that, as opposed to being taken over by the narrative that having success and having money and having a level of career and success in terms of their academics, they went to college and they have a good career, that they don't need a man. This narrative that was painted is so deadly and dangerous because at the end of the day, it serves our community. Not at all. It does not serve our community, you know. And you know, when you look at the future of things, the stats don't lie. If 1 in 4 women in this country, black women in particular, will marry in a lifetime, that means 3 will die by themselves. And you heard me say this, I'm going to continue saying it. Until the stats go down, I will repeat this in every stream. Because it's serious. 1 in 4 will marry in a lifetime. That means 3 will die by themselves. And it's not even necessary. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. But ladies, stop paying attention to social media. Stop paying attention to the movies. Stop paying attention to the videos. I mean, I'll give you an example of what I said earlier. If the man that you have on your list, the perfect one that you designed, came into your life, it would scare you away because you wouldn't know what to do with that kind of man. Because your previous experiences in relationships have not been productive. So if you find one that happens to stumble in your lap, you wouldn't know what to do. It would make you afraid, and subconsciously you would sabotage the relationship because you just simply wouldn't know how to function in the relationship. And I'm gonna give you an example of a movie that kind of touched on that same behavior. How many of you remember this movie called, I believe it was Set It Off with Jada Pinkett and Queen Latifah? Remember that? You remember the young man who Jada Pinkett was involved with, her character? He was a banker. He was in the bank. I believe he was the bank president or something like that. Very successful black man. He really, truly liked her. He didn't understand what her background was. See, she was used to Pookie she was used to Pookie and Nug Nug and Tim Tim. In fact, her child's father was in prison, who was not only a gangbanger, but a drug dealer. This is who she gave a child to. But she fell into the presence of a man who was doing his thing. He was a banker, he was very successful, he was the president of the bank, and he truly was attracted to her. He would have gave her everything that she probably dreamed about when she was younger, before she got hooked up with Pookie. And it scared her to death. It scared her. It scared her to death. And as a result, she knew she couldn't let that be successful, especially in light of the fact that she was already doing something that was illegal in the first place. They were already contemplating robbing a bank. They had already robbed it once. They were talking about robbing it again. But I'm looking at, I want you to pay attention to the reaction that she had as a result of running into this good man, this clean dude who wasn't involved in criminal activity, who didn't sell drugs, who had a real career and was successful, and treated her in a way, when he took her back to his house, treated her in a way she had never been treated. He took her around his colleagues. He took her around his co-workers and introduced her proudly with a big smile. And notice how awkward she was when those women began to question her. How she had to tailor the answer in such a sophisticated way to only say that she was doing really nothing at all. But it sounded good the way she said it, very clever. But notice the awkwardness of it. She could not understand how to react or how to act in a situation like that. Why? Because she now had found herself in the presence of a man who was probably on her dream list as a young girl. But because her options in the community she lived in and the mindset that she had been tailored to think on wouldn't allow her to attract that kind of man. She attracted that kind of man by accident. By accident, only because she was casing the bank. But had she not gone in there to case the bank, she would have never come in contact with him. She couldn't let that relationship go. She couldn't let it work. And ladies, this is what I'm saying. If the men that you want, if the outcomes you say you want, on that list that you have, came into your presence with the mentality and with the attitude and with the behavior and the vitriol, right? And the pejoratives and the ad hominems and the shame, the insult, the guilt, and the need to be right, with no humility whatsoever, that if a black man says anything to you that holds you accountable, you immediately go into the knee-jerk reaction of attack. That is not going to get you the outcomes you want. Because like I say, in every stream, we want you, but you don't seem to want us. Not unless we come with queen, goddess, you're the prize, and all these other names and titles that remove accountability. Are any of us perfect? Absolutely not. I, myself included. But I do have a talking point. A talking point that needs to be heard. And it's only going to take the special one to hear it and not get in their feelings and not get in their emotions. Because ultimately what I want to see, my objective, is not to be seen, it's not to be popular, it's not to be any of that. I could care less. What I want to see something different outside. But ladies, you got to stop running from the truth that could change your outcomes. Are you running from the truth that could change your outcomes? Is your emotion sitting on a hair trigger to where the slightest touch, the bullets just start flying? Or can someone really talk to you? And even if you disagree, can you agree to disagree without the shame, the insult, the guilt, the hate to be right? And like I always say, there's a low level of disrespect amongst black women, our women in particular, where her own man is concerned, and the whole world is watching how you treat your man. We could do better if you would attempt to do better. Nothing that we do is without your support. Nothing that we do is without your support. If we do wrong, it's with your support. If we do right, it's with your support. But what outcomes do you really want? What outcomes do you really want? And ladies, we got to get to a place again, man, that we understand what exactly we are qualified for. All of us. What is wrong with the average guy? What's wrong with the guy that works the third shift at the plant? What's wrong? The average black man makes between $41,000 to $42,500. I know some of you brothers that may hear this stream later may say, well, Brother Charles, I make way more than that. Okay, well, fine. You're only a notch above the average. You ain't that far. It's okay. We're still average. And I'm comfortable with average. You know why? Because I'm average. Do I make more than $41,000 to $42,500? Yes, I do. But guess what? That ain't nothing to raise a flag about and jump up and down and start pumping my fist. Absolutely not. No. That ain't nothing to brag about. The fact that you have a job, that you're working, that you're being responsible, that you are willing to take care of family, that you're willing to take care and be there for your children, that's something to brag about. And I'm going to tell you what winning really looks like. Winning is not how much money you made, ladies. Winning is not what college you graduated from, ladies. Winning, true winning, is not what kind of car you drive. Winning has nothing to do with your financial gains or resources that you have. True winning is being with someone that you can finish out the end of your life with. That's true winning. That's true winning. We got this thing all messed up. We got this thing all messed up. We really believe that what we achieve financially and what we tend to accumulate in terms of materialistic possessions, that it actually means success. Well, if that's true, then why are so many very financially stable women by themselves? And the only companion they have in that house is a dog or a cat or several cats. Why? Why is that? If money meant success, if what kind of car you drive meant success, if what city or town or gated community you lived in meant success, if it meant true success, why are the most successful black women the most unhappiest women in the country? Why? It stands to say that narrative is a delusion. It's a delusion. Because truth be told, I'd rather sit in a small room with somebody that I love and care about, that's there for me, and no matter what condition I'm in, they still see me as valuable, they're still nurturing, they're still submissive, meaning they're agreeable, they're still trying to be attractive to me, they're still not trying to give me the work of having to take the temperature before I walk in the house with my toe to see what kind of mood you might be in that day. I'd rather have that kind of woman and be in a room. I'd be happy, the happiest man on the planet. And I'm going to tell you something that you don't know. Most men would be happy if they could just find that kind of woman. But trying to find that kind of woman is like trying to find a needle in a field of haystacks. Not a needle in a haystack. Trying to find a needle in a field of haystacks. Very difficult to find. Very difficult to find. That's why when you find one, it's literally like a rose that grew from concrete. You better nourish, you better take care of that rose. You better take care of that rose. And ladies, let me tell you something. If you find a man that's willing to throw himself to you because you meet those requirements, you better protect it like it's a precious stone. Because the same way you want him, somebody else does. But you gotta stop running from the truth of what could change your outcomes. You can't get mad at someone like myself that has a talking point like this and think that I'm attacking you personally. That would say that you personally are that special, that I'm talking to you specifically when these situations, these consequences that I'm speaking of affects the entire black community. How could I be personally talking to you? Why is it that these talking points make some of you ladies think that the speaker is talking directly to you? You can't make that kind of stuff up. That's ridiculous. If I don't know you, how could I be talking to you directly? Come on, ladies. Come on, ladies. We got to do better than this. We got to do better than this. We can't keep getting upset simply because a man said that he wants something specific. There was no female protest with color purple. That made men look horrible. But what we like to do in these conversations, ladies, you like to color purple the whole black community with every conversation. And it's simply not that way, and it's not true. Like I said earlier, many of our women are walking around with broken pieces. They stare into a mirror every day that looks like it's a regular mirror, but in reality, it's broken glass, and they're staring at a broken reflection of themselves. They're looking at a glass that looks like it's normal, but in reality, they're looking at a glass that's broken that reflects the brokenness of themselves. And then they take that same mentality, that same brokenness, and they go to meet someone else and think that it's going to be a productive relationship. How can it be a productive relationship if you're broken? How? And I know what some of you are saying. Well, men are broken too. You're right. A lot of us are broken. You better believe it. Yes. But right now, I'm talking to you. So will you take accountability for your brokenness? See, escaping accountability is easy by saying, well, he did it too. You know, children, we used to do that as children. Think about it. We used to do that same thing as children. When we knew we were wrong about something, the deflective response would be to say, well, Johnny did it too. Sally did it too. But it's funny that in the conversation when we did that as children, the only person being spoken to was us. So we sought to escape accountability for what we did wrong as children by making sure that somebody else had to suffer the consequences of what we knew we were wrong for. Ain't it funny how we've always said that misery loves company? We got to get better. We have to get better. And expecting a different outcome by doing the same exact thing, we know what that's called. That's called insanity. Doing the same thing, expecting a different result. But if you look in our communities, these same behaviors is repeating itself from one generation to the next. Where you live right now, you can see young girls that are repeating the same behavior, the same attitudes, the same disrespect that the parents did prior to them. We're starting an army of recruits of dysfunction and women that are unmarriageable. So get mad at me and get mad at anyone else like me who has these conversations. It will not, I promise you, it will not change your outcomes. Your outcomes will continue to snowball and get worse. And these same stats that you heard me talk about, when I said that 1 in every 4 black women will marry in this country, that means 3 will die by themselves. Those stats will not go down, they will increase as long as we are not unwilling to take accountability for our behavior, our actions, our masculinity, and our unwillingness to respect the man that we say we want. And I know some of you may say, well, you know what, if a black man don't want me, I'll go to a white one. I got some news for you, he don't want you either. Because he's watching you from afar, and you know what he's saying to himself? I don't want no part of that. But we do. We want you. We want you. We just want you to get better. We want you. And many of you want us. you have this list that you know 85% of the men that you actually want in the communities where you live, they don't meet the requirements of the list that you have, but they're still good men, so you put them in your friend list. Like I said earlier, man, you need to go pay attention to your friend list, because you probably done met the suitor, the best suitor that you could have possibly had more than one time, but you weren't interested. Ladies, are you running from the truth that could very well possibly change your outcomes? Because all I want to see is better outcomes. That's all I want to see. And I'm pretty sure if you're sane and intelligent, you want to see better outcomes too. I'm sure many of you, if you have daughters, you want them to see better outcomes than you had. Any parent wants to see their child do better than what they did. Even if they're doing okay, they still want their child to take it to the next level and do even better than what they did. Now look at where you are. If you have children, do you want them to be better than you are? If you have sons, would you want your son to bring home you? Think about it. If you had sons, would you want your son to bring home, to introduce to you, you? We can do better. But it takes a conscious decision to do that, and it takes a humbleness within us where we can put away our feelings, tuck away our ego, and realize that even if I win the argument, I still didn't win the war. What is the war? The war is to get our community back together. You may win the argument with the guy that you're having a conversation with. You may insult him. You may shame him. You may throw guilt on him. You may try to throw up his past. You may try to throw in. Listen, you can do all of those things, but after you win that argument, will you win the war? And will it change your outcomes? This is what I want you to concentrate on and pay attention to, ladies. It's all coming from a good place. We are better together than we are apart. We just are. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your ear. Thank you for listening. I hope this helped somebody, because that's my only objective. Until next time, let's talk about it. I'm your host, Charles Chambers. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.